True healing is built in the minutes, hours, and days of our lives, not in single moments or experiences. But in our choices at home, our interactions with the world, our daily life, healing is about constructing a supportive ecology in our daily waking and sleeping hours. That is the foundation we can build upon to create real change in our lives. To understand the person we are, how we see ourselves as well as what drives our life narrative, we must, like mentioned in previous videos, take the journey into ourselves, asking who we are, what we believe and what drives our choices and decisions. And that brings me to a central question: who are we? What builds the avatar we present to the world? What created our personality, how we see ourselves, our ego? To understand that, we must first explore our internal world. A world that is largely autonomic, multi-layered, subconscious and incredibly complex. We are not blank slates. We carry generations of story in our very biology, through our epigenetic inheritance. We carry what crossed the placenta, our mother's experiences shaping our developing nervous system for the world it predicted. Then, our preverbal, early years. If our world felt hostile, our entire physiology, brain, nervous system, organs, developed in response. We are built to simply survive. Survival behaviors that worked for a terrified child become embedded blueprints. These blueprints form our defenses, our filters, our rules for life. They dictate which parts of me are safe to show, what must I repress. They build the ego, not as vanity, but as a security guard, a narrative designed to protect us from past harm we were born from, we experienced, or both. So, how do we heal? We don't attack the security guard. We negotiate. This means a compassionate, truthful inquiry into who we truly are. Why do I believe this? Why do I choose this? Truth needs no justification. We look for the nuances in our reactions, the gray areas between fight, flight, and freeze. By working with these nuances, we can slowly, safely reconfigure our internal ecology. We expand what it can accept. We build more safety. Brick by brick, we construct a life beyond survival. This is a journey, not a fix. It takes time and non-judgmental curiosity. But this is how we reclaim the authorship of our lives. Our internal world, our early childhood shaped our interpretation of the external world and the person we became to live within it. Our ego is the bridge between both the internal and external selves. It is part of who we are, but not all of who we are. To heal survival means understanding the narrative of this bridge, as it is the pathway to negotiate with our filters and build our way out of survival.
Before colonization, indigenous peoples across the globe thrived in societies refined over thousands of years. They understood that true prosperity meant not just functioning together, but also knowing how to heal when things went wrong. The importance of learning who you are and the part you play within your people and community. This wisdom was rooted in a deep connection to self, to family, to community, and to nature, woven together through cultural practices and traditions. These foundations created a strong sense of self and belonging, forming an ecology that sustained their societies and provided the tools for healing whenever it was needed.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening all, it's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, A Box With No Lid. A channel I've spent the last few years working on and creating with the simple hope of delving into and exploring from a day-to-day understanding the perspectives around trauma, complex trauma, early childhood, pre-verbal, in-utero, all the different ways trauma impacts and the pathways and the lives it creates from our experiences. Now, I draw upon my own personal experiences. As I'm an adoptee, I was also removed and trafficked as an infant and sold. But I also draw upon my many years as an advocate and as a practitioner, because I spent the majority of my adult life fighting to try to bring in the understandings and the resources that people need when they need to heal or build a life or a path out of trauma. I also come at it from the perspective of our everyday. In my practitioner years, so much of healing and coming out of survival comes down to how we are, the choices, the decisions, and everything that we do in the minutes, hours, and days of our lives, at home and in our interactions with the world around us. Not so much in the therapy room, but more so in what we do in our waking and sleeping hours plays the largest part in how we can build a supportive ecology to heal. And this is one of the primary motivations for creating this channel, is to try to fill in the gaps and provide some ideas and information that you guys might feel useful or might be able to help put your own puzzle together so that you can create and build the lives you so rightly deserve. Now in this video, like I said in the last one, I want to spend a few videos on exploring who we are as a person. What makes us who we are? What makes our personality, our expression? What do we build our personality from? What do we build the avatar that is us, that engages in the world, from? What do we build our ego from, which is what it's mostly viewed as at? And as I said in the last video, this one, I want to first start with our internal world and unpack that one a little bit. Because our internal world is far more complex than we give it credit for, because the majority of our internal world is off limits. It's autonomic. We cannot control it. We can influence by what we experience and what we're exposed to. But we have a real difficulty in talking directly to it or having ways of intuitively interpreting it in a way that is beneficial for us to be able to change it. We largely feel out of control. So we just don't go there as a species. Back in the day in the old world, we could. We had ways within our daily lives that we would engage with, and largely that was part of the communities we lived in and the tasks we undertook, and the way we viewed our society and the way our society was gave us, our nervous system, the cues we needed to be secure enough to be able to work with our autonomic and subconscious and non-conscious aspects of our internal world. When you look at the onion layer, that is the internal we have epigenetics. We have multiple generations of perceptions, interpretations, and experiences passed on through the genes we inherit from our biological family, our biological ancestry. The science of epigenetics now is working back to around 14 generations, have direct influence on our behavior and on our physiological makeup, and how our endocrine system, our nervous system, and so many parts of our physiology work today. So we have our ancestry, our story, our inherited story is a large part of who we are. We also have in-utero, what crossed the placenta, what our mother experiences whilst we're developing inside her, growing inside her, we experience. And that draws upon our epigenetics and creates an infant, or the world that the infant is going to be born into, from what crosses the placenta, what the mother goes through and experiences. If the mother is under high stress, cross-placental cortisol and other measures, alter the developing structure of the child. Alter the way the brain, the immune system, the nervous system develop and work, because we're being born into a hostile world. That is a part of our internal process and part of who we are. And when you look at, pre-verbal, early childhood, pre-verbals before we're able to speak, early childhood developmental trauma is in the same period, our developmental years, and how our trauma or stress levels alter how we develop. Neurophysiologically, how our nervous system, how our organs, how our brain, and all the structures of our human physiology develop to respond to that threatening environment. All that is a part of this autonomic, this non-conscious and subconscious, to all the varying degrees of all our varied experiences and all our varied childhoods. And this makes it a very difficult world to understand, because there is no singular perspective. There is no singular instruction manual that can take us through. And it's up to us to take some time to look at where we came from and how that created who we are. Other components of our internal world come down to when we were first starting to test what would work, the ways, and we find solutions to protect us, keep us safe if we're coming from an early childhood trauma base. Remember, when you come out of dorsal vagal shutdown, you move through fight or flight automatically. You cannot avoid those steps. And those steps create behaviors. And if those behaviors become embedded because they worked in our young child's mind, our 3-4-year-old's mind, if this behavior is getting me what I need to survive, that embeds as a pattern and will be reinforced and worked upon and expanded as a pattern. Again, it shapes the path and the way we approach our survival state. Will we build the defenses? Will we build the interpretations of the world around us? Will we build how we're going to filter and work with the people in our lives or the people that come into our lives? How are we going to interpret interactions? But also how we're going to interpret ourselves. Which personality traits do we put forward and show the world? Which personality traits do we repress? What works and what doesn't? All those developing years create a base that we build upon to build our avatar, to build our ego, to build the person that we express and show the world. And all the layers and filters that come with that. You know, our ego, for want of a better analogy, it's a very common word used, but it's an easy way of demonstrating or showing what I'm trying to talk about. The person that we think we are and how we feel we are perceived and what we need to keep us safe. Remember, our ego is our security guard. Our ego is our filters for all aspects of life and all aspects of interaction. There's also our belief systems. There's so many facets in what we've developed, all revolving around a narrative that we feel works to protect us from the harm that we experienced whenever it was in our life. If it means in utero, early childhood, preverbal, all those times, in the very, very young life, it is the only life our body has known. So when we start to look at how we can interpret our responses, when we start to look at what drives our perceptions, our pursuits, our priorities, what are our emotional priorities, all these questions revolve around taking some time to sit with and learn who we are, answering the questions truthfully about why we believe this, why we choose this, and then journeying along those questions to, is this really helpful and do I need to amend it or change it down the road? The first step is learning to answer the questions truthfully. If we justify, if we go, I do this, but it's because of this, we're not answering the questions truthfully. Truth doesn't require a justification or a rationalization. It is just the truth. And with this, with us talking and engaging with ourselves, we don't need to lie. We're not telling anybody else. There is no judgment, only our own. But the reason this is so important is that we understand what we're working with. And if you want to walk into a room to negotiate, you need to understand what you're working with. And our survival state, the way to heal from it is we need to negotiate with it. We need to approach it in the way that we have developed the defenses and the layers of defenses that we have developed. And we need to understand the nuances of that. Remember, like I said in the last video, in all my practitioner's years, I found that it's the nuances that are the key, because the nuances are the gray areas. And if we keep this blanket approach of fight or flight, or even complete shutdown, we won't find the nuances. So we need to take the time to look for the nuances within our process, the way we do things, the way we respond to things, and the reasons behind all it is that we do. If we work with the nuances, we can start to build upon them and expand them to bring in and be accepting of more things within our ecology, to grow our survival ecology to something a little more supportive. And after time, eventually we will move out of survival, because when we build enough safe, we can. I really hope you guys understand where I'm coming at from this and enjoy the journey. This is not about judgment or self-criticism. Exploring our internal world takes time. It's not a one-step thing. It's not a one-week thing. It's a regular process. And like in the animation, so much of our early prehistory in human beings spent so much time doing that because it was important. As always, I love you guys' comments and feedback. Please be mindful, please be safe, and I will see you all next time. Hope.